Sam Dodo. Hello everyone. Hello Professor. Our topic today will be about the art and power of nonverbal communication in the workplace, which is a webinar that aims to explore the art and power of nonverbal communication in the workplace. Participants will gain insights into its significance and pretty much overcome challenges and learn the best practices for enhancing their professional interactions. So today we will have with us our friends Wissam Khair Bouadi, our friend Salma Adi, Safa Etrabe, and Umayma Ru'tal, and today I will be your host for this webinar. So we will talk about the outline, which will pretty much consist about understanding the nonverbal communication with Salma Adi, the power of nonverbal communication with my friend Safa, overcoming challenges in nonverbal communication with Wissal, and the best practices and tips with Umayma. So, without any further ado, we will start with the understanding of non-verbal communication with my friend Selma. Selma, can you hear me?
Yes, Emmy, thank you so much, and welcome everybody who's online with us live today, and for everybody who's gonna join after the live is going to end. So, basically, today we're gonna be talking about the understanding nonverbal communication. I'm gonna cover three parts. The first one is going to be the silent language and what is it actually, the nonverbal orchestra, and we're gonna get the chance to know what are the elements in this orchestra. And finally, I'll be covering the speaking volumes in the workplace. So let's start with the silent language. So, in our everyday interactions, we tend to actually focus primarily on these spoken words. However, there's up to 70% of communication that actually takes place, like through the nonverbal cues. So, understanding these unspoken signals when it comes to body language, facial expressions is extremely important and crucial. So, for an effective communication in in any setting, especially the the professional environments, such as the workplace, as we're talking about today. So, by learning to decode the silent language, we can actually build stronger relationship and improve collaboration and navigate workplace dynamics more effectively. So we get the chance to have more of all these aspects when we actually decode these language. And now I'll move on to the nonverbal orchestra. And as you can see in the screen right now, is we have a lot of elements. So actually, the nonverbal communication is like an orchestra, with each element playing a role in shaping the overall message that you are trying to interpret or deliver. So body language, facial expression, and vocal cues reveals emotions. So how you're actually being open to people and using your hands and the gestures and all of that gives and interpret a message. The way how your voice and the volume of it is actually interpreting another message as well, and it's all nonverbal communication, and it's revealing emotions. Your volume or your voice is revealing whether you're angry or satisfied or you're happy, and etc. So also when it comes to attitudes and intents, it's also beneficial, and it interprets more signals for the person who you're trying to communicate with. So even when it comes to your appearance and the way you're dressed, it gives another interpretation, and it speaks and gives another message to the person you're interacting with and communicating with, and how you actually use touch. So, for example, patting, hugging, you should use those. You should use touch with extreme caution. You have to be cautious as much as possible, because it might not be the same for everybody, and especially when it comes to cultures. And so understanding those different instruments in this orchestra and how they actually interact allows you to interpret messages more accurately and effectively, and it also helps you tailor and shape your own nonverbal communication for successful professional interactions. And with that, by the way, you can make business deals fastly and in a professional way. And now let's move on to speaking volumes. And uh, when it comes to that, in the professional world, effective nonverbal communication can make a significant difference. It can help you build your rapport, trust with your superiors, clients, with colleagues. So, um, uh, the way you're actually communicating with your body and all of that can build all of those aspects I just mentioned now. So during a presentation, try as much as possible to actually use positive nonverbal cues also in negotiations. Why? Because it helps you actually identify potential like it helps you identify like potentials for whatever you're trying to there's a potential for whatever you're trying to interpret. And also it helps you when it comes to to the way or how persuasive you are and how credible you are when it comes to using positive nonverbal cues. So you would have more of those important aspects when it comes to positive nonverbal cues, which are extremely important, especially in the workplace. Also, being attuned to nonverbal cues from your colleagues and from other people helps you identify the potential of potential issues, whatever they are. So, and it makes you more capable of handling difficult situations through just nonverbal communication. Utilizing nonverbal communication in the workplace contributes to a more productive and inclusive environment for everyone. So being and using positive nonverbal cues makes you more credible and persuasive. And with that, we can it can take us to the previous point I just mentioned in the orchestra, that you can finish business deals just like this if you actually use positive nonverbal cues. And thank you. I'll leave the floor for Safa.
Thank you so much, Tamani, for the very interesting topic you talked about. So up next, we will be talking about the power of nonverbal communication, which will be for my friend Safa Etrabia to talk about. My friend Safa, can you hear me?
Yes, I do hear you. Thank you so much, Amin. Thank you so much, Salma. Now we will be moving to the power of nonverbal communication. Well, in this part, we will be talking about three main points. The first one is the impact on perception and relationships. The second one is the influence on leadership and authority. And finally, we're going to be seeing some examples of how nonverbal communication shapes organizational culture. So the first thing we will be seeing is, as I said before, is the impact of nonverbal communication on perception and relationships. So actually, nonverbal cues can profoundly influence our professional culture, interactions, perceptions. Yeah, this is it. Now we will be see the impact of these nonverbal communication on perception and relationships. So, concerning perception, well, nonverbal cues play a crucial role in human communication by conveying emotions, attitudes, intentions more powerfully than actually words alone. So, facial expressions, gestures, posture, and tone of voice, they can actually all transmit a subtle nuance of emotions and attitude that words may fail sometimes to capture. So For example, a furrowed brow might signal confusion sometimes, or maybe concerns, while a relaxed, actually, posture and a gentle smile sometimes can indicate openness and friendliness. So these nonverbal signals or cues, actually can provide important, important context and depth to verbal communication by enriching the overall understanding between the individuals. Now, concerning relationships, well, positive nonverbal signals, such as, again, maintaining eye contact, smiling, and displaying open body language, are instrumental in building trust with colleagues. Eye contact, for example, demonstrates attentiveness and sincerity, fostering a sense of connection and engagement as well. So, smiling communicates warmth and approachability, making interactions more pleasant and inviting. And also an open body language, such as uncrossed arms and facing towards the person speaking. Well, all these convey receptiveness and a willingness to collaborate with others. For example, if we combine all of these nonverbal cues, I'm sorry, all these nonverbal cues, open body, they can create an atmosphere of mutual respect and understanding, strengthening professional relationships and enhancing teamwork as well. The following point is, Amin, please. Thank you. Well, the following one is the influence on nonverbal cues, on leadership and authority. Well, effective leaders understand the significance of nonverbal communication in inspiring confidence, fostering trust, and exerting authority. So let's explore this further by first talking about leadership, and then we're going to move to authority. So concerning leadership, effective leaders actually know how to leverage nonverbal cues such as confident posture, authoritative gestures, and controlled vocal tone to establish their presence in command respect within their team. Also, a leader's confident posture, such as standing tall with shoulders back, communicates assurance and strength, while authoritative gestures like firm handshakes and decisive gestures emphasizes their leadership role. Additionally, a controlled vocal tone characterized by steady pacing and clarity conveys credibility and composure, reinforcing again the leader's influence over the team. The second one is authority. Well, congruence between verbal and non-verbal communication is actually crucial for leaders to appear authentic and trustworthy. When a leader's nonverbal cues align with their verbal message, it enhances the consistency and believability of their communication. Well, inconsistencies between what is said and what is done, coming together, they can actually sometimes be ensuring instead of just having one of them, and it can sometimes create confusions. Well, therefore, by ensuring harmony between the two, nonverbal and verbal communication with words and actions, leaders can strengthen their credibility, foster trust, and effectively influence their teams towards shared goals. Finally, and the last part is, Amin, please. Thank you. How nonverbal communication shapes, the first one. Thank you. The last part, as we said, is how nonverbal communication shapes organizational culture. Well, not only influences individual interactions with others, but also contributes in shaping the culture and the environment of an organization. Well, let's explore some real life examples. Well, nonverbal cues are actually, like, for example, such as office layouts, dress code, and shared rituals. They all serve as tangible manifestations of organizational values and norms. For instance, well, an open office layout with collaborative workspaces reflect a culture that values transparency, teamwork, and innovation. So, similarly, a dress code that emphasizes professionalism and adherence to company standards reinforces a culture of respect, professionalism, again, and discipline. Also, attention to details sometimes. Well, also shared rituals like weekly team meetings or maybe company-wide celebrations. Sometimes they cultivate a sense of belonging, unity, commitment among employees, reinforcing organizational identity and cohesion. And finally, leaders can actually leverage nonverbal cues strategically to shape and align organizational culture with strategic objectives. Well, by modeling desired behaviors and embodying core values in their own actions and interactions as well, leaders set a powerful example for employees to follow again. So, additionally to that, leaders can use physical symbols such as prominently displaying mission statements or core values in the workplace to reinforce cultural priorities and foster alignments with well, with strategic goals again. Encouraging inclusive communication practices, establishing norms for collaboration and decision making. Well, also like creating spaces that facilitate interaction and idea sharing further supports the actually cultivation of a culture that drives organizational success. Well, as we conclude this part, our discussion on the power of nonverbal communication in the workplace. Well, the thing that I want you to remember is that being mindful of our nonverbal cues can actually enhance our professional relationships, leadership effectiveness, and organizational culture. So I hope that now you see how powerful nonverbal communication is. If so, please write down a yes so that I can know that you got it. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my friend Safa, for the insightful topic. I see that I have a few questions here every now and then. My friend Bashir has here asked us two questions. First one says, can you provide examples of how body language can be misinterpreted in the workplace? I think this question cannot be answered in the meantime because it's going to be related to the fourth part of the webinar. Again, he also gave us another question that says, can you discuss the role of nonverbal communication in building and maintaining strong client relationships? I think it's going to be up to my friend Sasa to answer this part. Can you please answer it?
I think we can keep it for the end to answer it so that we can move on with the presentation, but remind me to answer it towards the end.
Okay, sure. Thank you so much, Safa. We will be moving on to the second part, the third part, my bad, which will be about overcoming challenges in nonverbal communication, which will be done by my friend Wissal. Wissal, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you so much. And hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our webinar for today. And just a quick reminder for people who just joined. So, our topic for today is the power of nonverbal communication in the workplace. And I'm going to be starting to talk about how we can overcome challenges in the nonverbal communication. And the first thing I will be talking about is cultural differences in cross-cultural communication. The second thing I will be talking about is addressing misinterpretation and miscommunication that can occur a lot during our work. And the third thing is how to handle difficult conversation using nonverbal communication. So now we will start with our first important thing, cultural differences in cross-cultural communication. We know that in our world, like we can find ourselves working in a company or in a place where there are people from different ethnicities, backgrounds, and also people that, simply put, even though they are from the same country that we are from, but they have different traditions, or when it comes to religion, they have a different religion. And that's something very normal. And I can say that me myself, I have experienced it before. So we're going to be starting with our first point, and how can you manage this cultural differences in a workplace. So first thing is awareness and sensitivity. So as a person, you should always be aware of your surroundings and of especially of people that works with you. Because if you don't know how like their norms is, their a little bit about their background, like maybe their religion or stuff like that, like sometimes you can say something that can offend them, or maybe they can feel bad about it afterward. So you should always be aware of that, and also be sensitive. Something that is very important in nowadays is our humanity as humans. So being sensitive and caring about each other, and also knowing which things can hurt like each other in a workplace is very important. The second thing I will be talking about is observe and adapt. You should always observe and adapt to your surroundings. For instance, let's give an example. You just got a job in this huge company abroad, which is a multicultural company. So first thing you should do is not just bring your, very closed up maybe norms and things like that into this company and say, oh, I will stay like this and I will not change. This is the mistake that a lot of people can find themselves doing without realizing. So you should always be willing to adapt to the environment that you are in, and be willing to be open to people with different cultures and different backgrounds, and also observe. It's very important that we observe our surroundings, and that we be a critical thinkers, and we see how our people around us deal with things, and how they deal with their work basically, so it can help us to approach them and build a good connection. Also, you should always avoid assumptions and stereotypes. Stereotypes are everywhere and anywhere. That's an issue that we've been in for generations now. We are trying our best as human to avoid it, and we're trying our best to judge a person based on their personality, not based on their backgrounds. So it is very important to delete from our mind anything that we heard before about someone from a specific country or someone from a specific background. For instance, like saying that people from this country speak a certain way or have this kind of accent, that can be very offensive, especially in a workplace. So it's very important to avoid all these assumptions and stereotypes. The fourth thing is practice active listening. We all know that there is a difference between hearing and active listening, because when you just hear an information, it doesn't mean that you are actively listening to it. What we mean by actively listening to an information here is by critically listening to it, by understanding it, knowing it why, and how, and is it correct, is it not. Why I'm mentioning this important step is because sometimes people can say something to you, maybe they are from a different culture, and you can like hear it in a different perspective, that they are the one that people are, they mean it. So it's very important that you know what they mean, and that you actively listen to them to avoid some misunderstandings that can occur during a workplace, and especially in a cultural in a cultural diverse workplace. People have meetings and different projects they need to work on, so it's very important that we listen to each other actively, we give time to each other, and we try to understand things from a general way, not just from our own vision. So now we will be moving to the next important point, and a very interesting thing that people that I mentioned before, and that people can find themselves like trying to deal with, is addressing misinterpretation and miscommunication. As I said before, it's very important that we actively listen to each other, that we know what people say and so on, so we can avoid misinterpretation and miscommunication. So the first thing we should do, and one of the important things, is non-threatened postures. As you can see here in this picture, like crossing our arm like this, or like doing certain of like our face gestures or things like that, can assume to the other party that we are, I don't know, angry, or we don't feel well, or things like that. So it's very important to maintain postures that are calm, maybe hands down. Also, our face should be calm with no aggressive, just like aggressive expressions and so on. Also, we should avoid like postures as, for example, putting our hands around our hips and things like that, because it can be offensive to the other parties. Also, in some cultures, it's very offensive to, for example, put our hands behind our neck like this. So for them, it's very offensive, and it can create misinterpretations and miscommunication between two parties. The second thing is respecting personal space. Even though we should always be close to people within our workplace, trying to be friendly with them, and like being like this one big family, but it is also important to give people their personal space, because each one of us should have their personal space in order for him or her to feel confident and not to feel very intimidated. So and also in some cultures, there are people, for instance, especially like in Asian culture, it is very offensive to get so close to someone, especially to their face, and talk loudly. It is very offensive. So respecting them and their personal space in order to maintain maintain a distance is very important. Also, the third thing I'm going to be talking about is offering supportive touch. This actually can vary from one person to another. That's why before I was talking about how you should observe a person, how you should know whether from which culture they are, what's their norm are, like how they think maybe, and how they manage things around them. So when it comes to offering a supportive touch, we need to know all of this information in order to know, are we gonna like be touching someone because we're touching them in their personal space? It's not something easy. So we gotta know before whether we can do this gesture or not. If they are very open to it, and it's something that can show that you are very friendly, and that you are being a good friend to them in the workplace, yes, you can do it. But if you feel that they are not for this, or it's very different in their culture, it's preferably not to do it, because it can be offensive for them. The last thing is using visual aids. And here I'm especially talking when we have, like, for instance, a meeting, workers that when they have a meeting, whether alone or with their boss, it's very important to use things as charts, images, pictures, colors, because there are some people who are visual learners. So it's very important. This can help them to understand your information more than just like saying it and talking. uh, it can be very helpful for them. So using visual aids is very important also to shift us from from being misinterpreted from other people and having some misunderstandings, because especially during meeting, like talking a lot and just like giving a lot of words after each other, it can be sometimes very boring. So instead of like, we can use like videos or images that we show our project with, or we can use, as I said, graphs or charts. It can be very vibrant and fruitful to the presentation teammates, I mean workers, are having. And now the last point I will be addressing here, and it's a very important point that I wish everyone like is gonna take from our presentation today, or webinar today, is handling difficult conversation using non-verbal communication. We all know that it can never be easy to communicate with everyone effectively and efficiently in a workplace, especially if people are from different backgrounds. Sometimes we can feel that, oh, they are not understanding me, what's happening, why they don't want to like understand my project, or why they are being rude or things like that. So here I will be talking about how can you handle these difficulties using nonverbal communications, of course. So first thing you should do, and it's very important, and a lot of people actually can control, is maintain calmness. I know it can be very challenging, especially if you are a person that don't like the get angry like in a fast way or things like that. But in a workplace, you should always maintain calm and not be in someone that get angry fast or someone that shouts. You should always keep your voice down. The second thing is open posture. When talking with someone that you have like an issue with, or like a difficulty with, you should never like talk with them and see like talking with them, for example, and like see in the ground, or like see the ceiling or things like that. You should always talk with them with an open postures, preferably your hands below your hips, and be like in a posture that can make them feel that you are not very much closed up, and that you're not very much angry and not ready to find a solution with them. And the third thing is empathetic gestures. As I mentioned before, it's actually connected to open postures. You should also have gestures that show that you are willing to have a solution to a certain issue. Because if your gestures, for example, if your hands are like crossed in a very aggressive way or things like that, you're gonna be showing to the other party that you are always right, you did nothing wrong, you're not ready to find a solution, and so on. So gestures are very important. Also mentioning, yeah, regulating our tone. As I mentioned before, voice is very important. So shouting when you are angry or things like that, or like talking in a very offensive way is not going to help you at all to handle difficult conversation. We should always talk in a very calm way, and with the tone that shows to the other person that yes, I am listening to you, I am actively listening to you, and so on. And the last thing is we should always give space, as I mentioned before. For example, you're having a difficult situation with someone, back up a little bit behind. Don't go into their face in a very aggressive way, because they can find that very offensive, and they can feel that you are being someone with no respect to them. So give them space while talking, and also give them time while talking. Don't cut them off. Don't say offensive words while they are talking. So always try to actively listen. Wait a little bit, then talk. In this By doing so, you can show that you are a person that critically think, and a person that is ready to find solution, and a person that can accept people from any background and any culture, rather than him or her. So it was very interesting to share with you guys this part, and I'm very open to hear your question at the end of the session. So hold on into this session, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Russell, for the interesting presentation you gave us today. Apparently, we don't have much time left, but we have plenty of questions here and there. But we will leave them to the Q&A session. So right away, we will move on to the next presentation, which will be about the best practices and tips. We will have my friend Umayma Rattal. Umayma, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Thank you so much, Amin, for moderating this webinar. And thank you all for attending our webinar today. And I hope all of you are doing well. So to set you in place, we already did 3 parts: understanding nonverbal communication, the power of it, and how to overcome challenges in nonverbal communication. And my part would be about best practices and tips. It will be 1, about do's and don'ts of nonverbal communication; 2, about practical strategies for developing strong nonverbal communication skills; and lastly, about resources and further learning opportunities. So let's start right away with the do's of nonverbal communication. Now, the first one I will tell you about is making eye contact, because it shows that you're paying attention and that you're focused and confident. So be sure that you look to the person you're talking with in their eyes. And if you struggle with making eye contact, there are many tips that might help you overcome that challenge. Secondly, you should try as much as you can using natural facial expressions, and be aware of what positive and negative facial expressions look like. If you avoid using facial expressions, it can be a signal of lack of interest. So just try keeping them in check. Thirdly, try to dress appropriately, because what you wear contributes significantly to the first impression you make on your colleagues or clients. You can take cues from the company's culture. For example, are they more laid back or formal? And dress accordingly. Then we move on to the last point in the do's of nonverbal communication. With now we move to smiling and nodding, which are proof basically that you're engaged in the conversation. By smiling and nodding, people with whom you're communicating know you are listening. But don't smile and nod continuously, as that might seem like you're rushing the meeting or whatever. Now we can move directly to the don'ts of nonverbal communication. And the first one to tackle, Amin, please, can you move the slide? Okay, thank you. So the first one is to not fidget. Fidgeting basically is moving or acting restlessly or nervously. And okay, I understand that this might be hard for some of you, because you don't even realize that you're fidgeting, but it's distracting to people around you. So you can, for example, ask your friends or family what are some of your subconscious habits, and try to keep them at bay. Then the second point is try to not to slouch, meaning don't sit in a lazy way and don't lean back. Also, be mindful of standing and walking straight when you're entering or leaving the workspace. Thirdly, try not crossing your arms. I mean, in this point, just pay attention to the context. If you are in a heated discussion, maybe it's better not to cross your arms. If you're in a relaxed team meeting, I don't think that would be a big problem. And lastly, try not overusing hand gestures. Just like facial expressions, hand gestures should seem natural and used in moderation. So be careful about that. Now, let's move to the next part, which is about practical strategies for developing strong nonverbal communication skills. The first step I would give is the video self-analysis, which means simply recording yourself during meetings, presentations, or whatever, casual conversations even, and then try to review them and pay attention to your facial expressions, body language, and gestures, and identify areas for improvement and work on refining those nonverbal cues. Secondly, observational learning, which is basically, as the word states, observe others and pay close attention to the nonverbal cues of successful communicators, and then try to emulate positive nonverbal behaviors, such as maintaining eye contact and using appropriate gestures. The third one is mirror and match. Basically, it means to mimic the body language of the person you are interacting with and try to align your energy level and communication style with those around you. And be flexible, of course, in memory, because remember, cultural and individual differences play a big role here. And then we move on to the body language workshops, which means simply that you try to participate in workshops or training sessions focused on body language, and engage, of course, in practical exercises and seek constructive feedback. We can move to the last part, which is resources and further learning opportunities. The first thing I would say is recommended books. The book I chose here is the book named The Silent Language by Edward. And it's basically the author here explores the cultural dimensions of nonverbal communication, providing insights into how different cultures interpret body language. Then moving on to the online courses and workshops you can attend. For instance, there is a course in Coursera called Active Listening, Enhancing Communication Skills, which basically covers how active listening is fundamental for enhancing communication skills. And lastly, I can recommend a platform for webinars and online workshops, which is called the National Communication Association. It basically you can attend their webinars organized by the NCA, focusing on communication research and practical applications. And that's all for my part. Thank you everyone for attending our webinar and for giving us your questions. I will be welcoming you to ask if you have any doubts in anything.
Thank you so much, Nasser and Umena, for the perfect presentation. Now we will quickly move on to the Q&A section. I see that plenty of people here have questions to answer. I have someone who says, how can we deal with situations where one of our cultural norms is not being accepted by people in our workplace? Hold on, give me a second just to add people here. Okay. Okay. Once again, there's a question that says, how can we deal with situations where one of our cultural norms is not being accepted by people in our workplace? If I do remember correctly, it's Safa's part, if I'm not wrong.
I think it's Selma's part.
Oh no, it's
Yes, do you hear me? Do you see me?
no, it's actually we told you that part here. The question that shows in the slide.
Do you see me?
Yes, I do see.
You can see me. Okay.
Yes.
So to answer this question, it's basically so when it comes to cultural, nonverbal communication, how can it be a challenge for that? It's basically let's give an example. So in Turkey, if you say yes, or you're trying to say yes to people in Turkey, but by just shaking your head, you're actually might interpret to them no, because just shaking your head like this might mean a no for them, because
I'm
in
sorry,
the
my friend Selma. I think Wissal might know much better about this question.
yeah, sure,
Can
go
you,
ahead.
can you please say something about it?
And
Can you give us
yeah,
your
go ahead,
insight, please, if you can?
please.
Yeah, I think there've been a misunderstanding in the parts, but that's totally fine. I hope everyone is enjoying our webinar for today. So that was actually what I was actually talking about in my part. When there is a norm that is not actually accepted by someone or in your workplace, the first thing that you should do is surely change it, or keep it, as we say, to yourself. It is very important to, if our norms interpreted with our cultural space, it's very important that we keep them to ourselves, or we try to explain them to our teammates in our workplace, and that can be a good way and a good strategy on how to deal with norms that are not accepted in our workplace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wissal. Now we will move on to another question that says, I have a question regarding Selma's part. We talked about building trust with non-verbal cues. What if someone's cultural background makes their gesture different from what we expect?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, cultural differences can impact the way we deliver messages and interpretations. So, you or people should be more aware of how they are, like their body languages and what they are interpreting actually to others, and what are the body languages of others are interpreting to you. So I would advise to just be more aware of others other cultures and your culture. And for example, if there's something you don't know, or you might feel that it's giving mixed signals or something, don't just guess, just ask respect in a respectful way about it doesn't mean or doesn't interpret a specific thing in their culture, to be more enlightened. Thank you.
Okay, now we will move on to one last question. The fact that we have so many questions actually brightens up my day quite a lot. We have two questions. One that says, how can we solve the problem of having non-verbal verbal language misinterpreted? And the other question that says, can you discuss the role of non-verbal communication in building and maintaining strong client relationships? Now, from my side, I would pretty much think that it's much easier and better if we could talk about this. So I think it's gonna be up to Umaima or Safa to answer the question. What do you guys think?
I think I can answer the second one since it's related to my part. Well, again, I'm going to be reminding some things that I talked about quickly. Well, I talked about some really important nonverbal cues such as body language, facial expressions, and how they actually are so impactful in the workplace. However, I'm going to say it in how do they actually impact our relationship with clients. So basically, let's take an example of, body language, facial expressions, and gestures. Actually, they convey sincerity, empathy, and trustworthiness. So basically, the clients will trust you more. And also maintaining eye contact shows attentiveness and interest. Again, as I said in my part, while genuine smile can signal warmth and approachability. And finally, being mindful of nonverbal cues helps us in understanding clients' reactions and adjusting communication accordingly, leading to better understanding and collaboration, ultimately strengthening the client relationship. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Safa, for your response. I think we are pretty much done here for the webinar. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. That was very enjoyable and fun to present this webinar to you guys. I hope you learned a lot with us. And I thank every single person here with us, Safa, Umayma, Selma, and Wissam for giving perfect presentations about their topics. And thank you very much. It was very helpful and insightful to be here with you guys. Thank you.